Hey folks, this is Randy Wilburn here with Zweig Group. We are about to get started with session number 3, making your firm a great place to work. Listen, I just want to put a disclaimer out there that we really apologize for some of the technical difficulties that we've had with a few of the live versions of this Becoming a Better Recruiter webinar series. We are trying to do these recordings and then put them up and make them available to everyone that's participating in this webinar series. What we're finding is that it's a little bit easier, the quality is better, and that you're able to see it without any problems. The downside to that is that you're not able to do live questions and answers. And so because of that, I want to encourage you up front, and I'll talk about it throughout the time that I'm with you today. Use the hashtag BBRWebinar or the hashtag Zweig Group if you want to ask any questions, whether on Twitter or Facebook or pretty much any social media place where you are. We are monitoring those social media portals for those hashtags BBRWebinar and hashtag Zweig Group to just see if anybody has any questions related to this Becoming a Better Recruiter webinar series. But that's enough for that. I don't like to dwell in the past or any of the major challenges. We're here now. Let's just have a great time with this session, session number 3. Again, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Randy Wilburn. I am the director of the executive search group here at Zweig Group. We're based in Fayetteville, Arkansas. We've got people around the country, and this is our home base here. And so I'm excited to be with you. This is my second go around with Zweig Group. I was formerly with an owner with Zweig White and Associates, and I left prior to our acquisition back in 2004, but I'm back now and just really excited about what's happening with the firm. So just a little bit about Zweig Group, because, I mean, again, those of you that are watching this, some of you may know who we are, some of you may not know who we are. We've been in business since 1988. We were recently rebranded from Zweig White to Zweig Group. And our focus has always been the architecture, engineering, planning, and environmental consulting, and now construction industry exclusively. That is our niche, and as management consultants, that's the group of people that we work with. We usually tend to use the words design industry, but those are the people, anybody that's doing anything related to infrastructure in this country or elsewhere, you're our client. And so we're excited to be able to provide you with the most up-to-date and timely information for you to run your businesses more efficiently. Obviously, we come from your industry, and that's really important to us. We don't consider ourselves to be one-hit wonders when it comes to talking about the different challenges that this industry faces. And a lot of what we teach, we put into practice. And so that's very important. One of the other things that we really that we look at as a crowning achievement for us is the fact that we've been named to the Inc. magazine 500,000 list of fastest growing privately held companies. 3 times we got there, and that's really exciting in and of itself. And the most recent time was 2013, and so you know, it's certainly an honor to get that kind of recognition. But those labels, that recognition is great, but the reality of what we hope that it speaks to our clients and to those that are out there in the marketplace looking at us from afar is that we practice what we preach, and certainly as management consultants, we try to put into practice a level of excellence in how we run our business and also how our clients run their business. And that is really something that we stand behind, and we've been able to embody that through the acknowledgement of an award like the Inc. 500,000. So, and then, you know, at the end of the day, our motto, or mission statement, if you will, is simply that we exist to make our clients more successful. Period. End of story. There's not much else that we focus on beyond that, is that your success is our success. And so for those of you that are taking part in this, as I might add, a free webinar, this whole series is free. Our goal is to help you out, especially in this area of talent acquisition, especially in this area of recruitment and retention. And, I talk to people all the time from all across the country, and they all have some of the same things to say about how challenging it is to find good people here in the design industry, no matter where you're looking. And so, I totally get it. We're dealing with a very finite resource of people in disciplines across the way. And so it's important for us to recognize that every time we go out and try to represent our company in the marketplace, that we have to do it in a way that attracts people to it. And it's really, really important. And that's one of the reasons why we put on this Becoming a Better Recruiter webinar series. We really want you to think about every aspect of what it means to build a solid organization that is attractive to those people that may ultimately find themselves working with you. And so session number 1, we had a chance to talk about just the overall process of recruitment and retention. And session number 2, we talked about recruitment, relationships, and marketing, and the importance of that. And what does it mean to build relationships in the industry, and specifically in your sphere of influence, and how you build those relationships, and how sometimes not only will those relationships lead to new work, but they also may lead to new talent that you might acquire. And so that is really important. And now today we're going to really talk about making your firm a great place to work. And what does that actually mean? And so we're going to spend some time kind of walking through that and, giving you the lay of the land with regard to how you can purposefully and intentionally build your organization so that it is a talent magnet, if you will. So the first thing is, when you think about what a great place to work is, what does that mean to you? A lot of people say, well, Randy, we think we're a great place to work, and I totally understand that. We kind of came up with a number of things that a great place to work is, and a number of things that a great place to work is not. A great place to work, first of all, is a place where the owners, managers are committed to growing. That's right, I said it. Growth is important in the work environment and in an organization. Obviously, if you're a business, a small business, your goal is to grow larger than what you are. We do see individuals and we see firms in this industry that don't necessarily agree with this, that just like to get by and maintain what they have. But the idea here is that we enjoy working with firms that are aggressively trying to grow, and part of the attractive nature of a firm to an outside individual that may want to work there is whether or not that firm is growing. And so we would certainly consider a great place to work an organization that is actively growing. A great place to work is not a place where people are obsessed with maintaining control over everything. And simply what I mean by that is that as a leader, it doesn't necessarily mean that you let off the reins and you kind of give people free will and let them do what they want to do. Actually, it's quite the contrary. The idea is that as a leader, we are encouraging firms to allow the cream to rise to the top, if you will, and to give people the opportunity to do new things, and to give people a level of rope, not to hang themselves, but to try new things within the organization. And I always tell people that if you're going to fail forward and not backwards. And I think it's really important within an organization. You have to ask yourself, what kind of culture comes out of our organization? Is it one of control? Is it one of micromanagement? Or are we a culture of trying new things? Are we a culture of opportunity where we allow people we give them the basic tools that they need to succeed, but then we say, at the end of the day, we trust you, and we're giving you the opportunity to go out and make something of the tools that we've given you. And so it's really important for you in terms of trying to mold your organization and mold your company and to try to make it a great place to work is to really think about that, because again, no one wants to work for someone that's going to micromanage them from start to finish. I mean, it's just not, it's not a great environment to be in. And nowadays, when individuals really have their pick of the litter when it comes to good firms to work for, you certainly want to stand out in that area. Another thing is that a great place to work is not a place that just focuses on pay and benefits. If it were just about the money, that would be easy, right? We would all just pay these engineers and architects and landscape architects and planners and environmental consultants a lot of money, and they would come work with us. But the reality is that it's more than just the money. It's more than just the benefits. It is coming into a location, coming into an organization on a daily basis and being excited about being there. And so that's another aspect of a great place to work is that it's not just an organization or a place that focuses solely on pay and benefits. You know, a great place to work is a place where the owners and managers offer tremendous opportunities to all of its staff. It doesn't matter whether an individual is just starting out in the admin department or whether they are a senior department manager. The bottom line is that your firm should offer tremendous opportunities across the bandwidth or spectrum of employment there. That is what usually allows people to gravitate towards your organization as opposed to maybe going somewhere else and working. A great place to work is a place where everyone is treated with respect. I can't tell you the number of stories that I hear of people that feel like they're being, as I said earlier, micromanaged, that they are not treated with a great deal of respect and are really treated more like chattel than they are like employees. And you know, certainly those days are over, and we, you know, the industrial age has changed a lot, and we are in the age of information now, and everything is led and managed by ones and zeros, and there's so much data and information out there, and we need to be smart about how we handle the people that are working with us so that they don't pick up and walk away and go work somewhere else. You know, and another thing is a great place to work is a place with great pay and benefits and the ability to recognize and reward excellence even before an annual review happens. And, you know, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the statistics that we have found through our recruitment and retention survey that we did this year. But, you know, it's very important that a great place to work is a firm where, you know what, if so-and-so is doing a good job, if John or Sally are just knocking it out of the park and it's February or March, I know you're only 3 months into the year, but you're not going to wait until December to acknowledge them and give them the attaboy, attagirl, and, you know, here's your 3% bump in salary. The reality is that you may want to think about giving them a bump in salary at that point in time. We have for years consulted our clients about implementing a program like that where increases in salary are meted out over the course of a year and not just at that time at the end of the year where everybody gets their raise or everybody gets their bonus, or maybe they don't get a raise or a bonus. I think it's really important for firms to think long and hard about how they mete out that process. Here at Zweig, we practice what we preach. You know, certain individuals in our organization can stand to get multiple increases in salary over the course of the year. You know, it's not unheard of to have someone get 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 raises in a year. If the work meets the burden of proof, then we reward people, because we don't want individuals guessing whether or not we value them as an employee in the organization. And so obviously one way to value them is to increase their salary. Obviously another way to value them is to provide great benefits. Another way to value them is, as I said earlier, is to give them that extra freedom to do things that they need to do within the scope of their job description, and maybe even in some of those areas that's not necessarily directly in their job description, but within the scope of the work that the organization is doing. I always think about Google and the way that they have set up their work conditions and work environment for their employees. And while I understand it, and I'm not suggesting that firms in the design industry are akin to a tech firm. It's just, I know it's a different dynamic, but just understand that, even at Google, a place like that where those guys work considerable hours, each and every employee is given an opportunity to work on a pet project, if you will. And that is part of their workflow. And so, not that XYZ engineering firm is going to, go out and give some of their, project engineers or project architects, all this extra time to work on pet projects that are near and dear to their heart. But it's just the idea behind it. Maybe there's some ways for you to implement some of that within your organization and allow individuals to kind of do some cool things that keep them engaged at all times. And maybe it's not necessarily allowing them to take on a pet project. Maybe it's you as an organization giving your people time to go out and volunteer with programs that mean the most to them. And so you allow Chuck or Sally or Bob or Nancy, if they are heavily involved in a nonprofit organization, to maybe take off one day a month or once every quarter to go and volunteer their time, for something that really matters to them. And I know some of you may be doing that already, but that is certainly an option that you have to try to implement and speak to your employees by saying to them, look, what you care about, we care about. And the things that you want to do and the things that you want to achieve, we want to try to help you do them, both within the framework of your job description, but also from a personal development standpoint. And we're going to talk a little bit more later about personal development and what that looks like, and why, we are certainly encouraging firms to take time, not just to develop their people professionally, but also to develop them personally. Close to 2/3 of firms surveyed, 65%, this is one of those statistics I talked about, give raises through a formal salary wage review process. And, this is from the 2016 Zweig Group Recruitment and Retention Survey. This is an amazing survey, and certainly I don't want to put a commercial in the middle of this webinar, but this is a great survey for you to check out. And if you have any questions or want to find out additional information about this, I'll make sure that you have my contact information at the end to reach out to me. And whatever questions you have about this survey, I'll be more than happy to share that information with you. While I'd love for you to buy the book, I just want to make sure you have the information so that you can make informed decisions about how you run your organization, especially as it pertains to, talent acquisition, recruitment, retention. Those are really important matters. We have a couple of other statistics from this survey that we'll share during this program. A great place to work recruits from within. And this is one of the things that I'm always asking firms about whenever they call us. I mean, obviously, I'm a recruiter. That's the thing that we do. I have a team of recruiters that work with me, and firms call me all the time looking for new talent, or looking to fill this senior position, or looking to fill that mid-level position or this junior position. And a lot of times the first thing out of my mouth is, do you have anyone internally that might be appropriate for this position before you start going and looking outside of the organization? And, most of the times a client will say to us, well, we've tried internally to find somebody and we've just not been successful. And I get it. I mean, every position that you need to fill is not going to be fillable by somebody internally. But I would venture to say to you that as an organization, you should bend over backwards to try to make opportunities available to your current staff. I cannot tell you how much that will build a level of trust, that will build a level of support that you will get from your employees when they see that you are first looking internally to raise up someone within your organization before you go outside the organization to try to hire somebody. So I certainly want to recommend that you consider that first and foremost. And I mean, it is just, there are a lot of people in your organization. Some of them may not necessarily have all of the ingredients that you're looking for today, but that doesn't mean that they won't have those ingredients in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years. And so, they understand the culture of your organization. They understand their role and what they have to do. And so some of these individuals, these diamonds in the rough that you may be encountering on a regular basis that I know from time to time may drive you crazy depending on their personality or other proclivities. But the bottom line is some of these individuals may be your future leaders. And so you certainly want to treat them with kid gloves and give them the opportunities that they deserve to have within your organization when and where possible. So, when I talk about a great place to work and I want to continue this whole idea, I always think of someone like a Paul Greenhagen, who is now the CEO of Westwood Professional Services. Very, very dynamic design firm. They've got offices in Minnesota. They've got offices in Arizona. They are doing work all over the country. They are growing through acquisition. And Paul Greenhagen is now the CEO of this 300 plus person firm. And the thing that's really great about Paul and his story is that he started out as a survey manager for Westwood Professional Services. He's not even a licensed engineer. He was started out as a survey manager. He worked his way up doing land surveying for Westwood. He built a large group in the survey department, and then he expanded out. And as opportunities presented themselves to him, he continued to progress throughout the company to the point where I believe it was in 2006 or 2007, he was made CEO of Westwood Professional Services. We work with them quite a bit in a number of initiatives. But Paul is a great friend of the firm, but he's also a great tale or story of how you grow someone from within. And we'll put some contact information out there for Paul in the show notes of this video, as well as online. I'm going to be sharing with you a link later on at the end of this presentation where you'll be able to get some additional information and tips. And this the same tips sheet that I'm going to share with you throughout the duration of this Becoming a Better Recruiter webinar series. You'll be able to go to that. It will be live even after this event is over on November 1st, and you'll always have access to this information. But there is where I will put contact information for Paul just to kind of talk with him if you'd ever like to get information on how he did it and he rose through the ranks to become CEO of Westwood Professional Services. I've also had the pleasure of interviewing him on the Zweig Letter podcast audio series. If you want to check that out, you can just go to SoundCloud and look up the Zweig Letter podcast, or you can go to iTunes, or you can go to Stitcher and just check it out there and just listen, and then type in Paul Greenhagen, and you'll find the interview that we did with him. It was an amazing interview, and he talked about his rise through the ranks as well as all the cool things that Westwood Professional Services is doing right now. So that is an example of what it means to grow someone from the inside. You may have a Paul Greenhagen in your organization, and you need to figure out how to nurture that individual and how to grow them up so that they don't leave. And secondly, so that you show them how valuable they are to your organization and ultimately what they mean to the future of what you're trying to do with your company. So another thing about a great place to work is that it establishes professional and personal development programs for employees. And I hinted at this earlier. Obviously, from a professional development standpoint, a lot of you are participating on this webinar, which is going to provide you with some continuing education credits. Now, if this had cost you money, maybe your firm would have sprung for you to participate in that. I mean, we have a lot of seminars that we do around the country that firms pay thousands of dollars for their people to attend. But all those professional development programs and seminars do is help to grow your people to be better employees. to be better at what they do and to grow as individuals. But the other side of it is that personal development is just as important in terms of setting up a program for employees. And there was a statistic that I found from a financial literacy organization that said that for every dollar, and this is just in the area of financial fitness, for every dollar a company spends on financial fitness from a personal development perspective for their employees. So like maybe doing a Dave Ramsey Financial Peace at Work program or something along those lines that helps to develop your employees and help them maybe with their budgets and things of that nature. Those programs pay back on a 3-to-1 ratio. So for every dollar a company spends in personal development in the arena of financial fitness, the company gets $3 back in terms of having a much more satisfied employee who may or may not now be out of debt after participating in a program like this, and may be in a place where they can more focus, they can hyper focus on the work that they're doing at work and not be consumed by, some of the financial challenges that they may be facing in their personal life. And I get it. Everybody has bills, but not everybody is in debt. And if you as an organization decide to put on, say, for instance, a financial fitness program, and you help some of your employees get to a place where they were once in debt and now they're out of debt, can you imagine the amount of loyalty that builds with your people? It is tremendous. I mean, to me, a financial fitness program internally is one of the best retention tools that a company can implement in their organization to build some loyalty and also just to communicate back to their people that, look, we care about you both in the office and outside the office. And there are statistics to prove that an employee that is out of debt or doesn't have the specter of debt hanging over their heads, whether it's student loans or anything else, is a better employee. You're able to get more out of them, and they're able to work at a clip because they're not encumbered by a lot of those personal issues. And I'm not saying that every personal development program you institute is going to instantly change people overnight, but for the amount of money that it costs an organization to institute some of these personal programs, it's peanuts compared to the return on investment that you get. So I would really encourage you to think about that. Another thing that I always like to talk about in terms of what makes a great place to work is the idea of considering open book management as an option for sharing company information. And I know a lot of you are probably rolling your eyes as you hear this, whether you're a leader in your firm or whether you're in HR and you're wondering how could you ever sell that to the leadership in your organization because they just don't want to share that information. Obviously, of course, we practice what we preach here at Zweig Group. We operate from an open book management perspective. Pretty much everybody here, my colleagues, everyone, we all know how the company is doing month in and month out, and we share in that information. The only information we don't share or we don't make public are salaries. I'm aware of the salaries of everyone on my team because I'm the one that sets them and works on giving them raises and such. But when it comes to the whole company, each department is responsible for their area as well as the leadership of the firm. But we don't get into sharing salary information with everybody. And that would be the one area that would be an exception to this whole idea of open book management. But outside of that, absolutely. Let folks know how you guys are doing from a revenue standpoint. We talk about how we do based on a cash basis as well as on an accrual basis, so we can understand, when we have to carry something over from one month to the next because maybe we had a bad month or there was a loss or something like that. I mean, there's so many benefits to open book management and how it can help create a level of transparency with your employees. And also, in some ways, especially if you're having some challenges financially or just things are a little slow and people are aware of it, you'd be surprised the extra effort that you'll see from your employees because you're sharing, some of the financial picture of where the company is. all of a sudden, more and more cars are in the parking lot in the evening, and that people are coming in on the weekends to get things done because everybody has an eye towards the goal that the leadership is setting up. And a lot of times they can do that when they have the information. So open book management is something seriously to consider. And, in our minds at Zweig, we think a great place to work is a place that operates with an open book management standpoint. And again, you can determine within your board or within your group of leaders what information you want to share. But I would certainly tell you that something is better than nothing. And if you wait till the end of the year to give someone a report and then you're surprised at the overall ability or lack thereof of employees to kind of get the bigger picture of where things stand financially, don't be surprised, especially if you're not sharing the information. How would they know? So it's just something that you need to ask yourself, and it's something that you really need to think about. The next thing is that a great place to work provides the technology and tools necessary to ensure talent acquisition success. And what I mean by that is that, obviously you guys need to be thinking about providing credit cards where possible, if need be. It shouldn't be an issue about cell phones, things along those lines. I'm always surprised, and again, this is not a technology or tool, but, when it comes to food and things of that nature in your organization, you don't necessarily have to hire a chef and have somebody making, specialized Caesar salads every day and, having all this free food available. But it would be nice to make some food available. I still see in a lot of old line engineering and architectural firms, and I'll go visit them and I'll walk into their kitchen and there is a soda machine there that costs money. There may even be a coffee machine that costs money. There may be a vending machine that costs money. You should get rid of those as quickly as you can. If you can't figure out a way to provide some basic snacks, basic beverages to your employees, and especially to people that are spending hours upon hours, that spend more time with you than they sometimes do with their family, well, I'm not going to say it, but shame on you. Don't take it the wrong way. I'm not scolding you, but I am saying you need to think long and hard about it. And if that's you, and you know who you are, and like I said, I've been to many a firm throughout this country, and I've seen it. Think long and hard about that. If you're collecting money to raise money for sodas and what have you in the office, you know what? Eat that expense and get your folks some soda. Get them some healthy drinks, healthy beverages, maybe some spring water, whatever it takes. I understand that everybody's on a budget and you've got to watch your nickels and dimes. It all adds up. But at the end of the day, if I come and work at a place where I know, I forgot to bring so-and-so, but that's okay because they've got some lean cuisine meals in the fridge that anyone can have. Or, I forgot to bring in something to drink, and that's okay. They've got some sparkling water in the fridge or some OJ or whatever. You fill in the blanks. Makes a big difference for individuals knowing that you're the kind of organization that does that. And I was at a firm recently, a client of ours. They actually here's some cool things that they do to really take care of their people. One of the things that they do is they have an on-site dry cleaner. So the dry cleaner comes and picks up the clothes for their employees. Now, they don't pay for the dry cleaning, but because they get it at a bulk rate, I believe that the employees of that firm get a significant discount than if they were to walk into a dry cleaner's to get their clothes clean. They have an outstanding coffee machine that's almost akin to having a barista from Starbucks there. And yeah, it costs a couple of $1,000s and it costs a little bit to maintain. And of course, a lot of you are working in a coffee culture type firm where everybody has to have their coffee. I know I do in the morning. But the bottom line is that, a system like that goes a long way and pays for itself in spades. And then, of course, this firm also did something that I really thought was interesting, and I've also told other firms about that, is that they've brought in a specialist that grows organic food and that individual comes in several times a month with all types of groceries that the people in the office can pick up. And they actually have a service now where employees who are busy working a lot and can't always find the time to get out and go to the Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or you fill in the blank grocery store, they are actually bringing groceries into the organization. The people still pay for them, but they're able to do some of their shopping right there. And again, these are just some unique ways that firms are setting themselves apart. And so, when I have to recruit for a company that has all those extra bells and whistles and I start to relay that information to a potential candidate, you can only see, I wish I could show you how wide their eyes open when they hear this, especially when you look at what the norm is in our, I would say that the barrier to entry is very low. So it's not like, I'm suggesting that you go out and do something that's going to cost you thousands upon thousands of dollars to implement in your organization, but just incrementally start with something. Free soda. How about that? And then let's just go after you do free soda, let's just give them some free chips. And after we do free chips, let's see how that goes for a while. Let's throw in some crackers, and then let's go with some lean cuisine meals and some other stuff that you can throw into your freezer. And before long, you'll see people saying, you know what, I'm not going to leave for lunch. I'm just going to grab a lean cuisine and get back to work because I've got a deadline to work on, and I don't have to worry about going out for lunch because my company provides these little benefits for me. Again, you have to determine what you can do within the scope and confines of your organization, but that's one thing that I would highly recommend taking a closer look at. And stop trying to extract every penny out of your people for services or for items that really should be free at the end of the day if you can make it work. Figure out a way to make it work and put it in place. If you want some more ideas or some more tips with regard to what firms are doing and how they're setting it up, feel free to contact me about that, and I'll be more than happy to kind of walk you through some of those programs that companies are setting up. The other thing that I learned, and this is from this same company, they're actually a very dynamic firm. They're based in the Mid-Atlantic states. It's an engineering firm. They do civil site development. They're growing by leaps and bounds. They're very easy to recruit for. They have an outstanding work environment, really open culture like what I've been describing. They have all these extra bonuses and bells and whistles, but another thing that they do is that individuals within the organization that have an interest towards, say, like triathlons or Tough Mudder events or just hiking or whitewater rafting or skiing, they have gotten these different individuals within the company to be the ones that will develop these trips and these outings that the company supports in terms of getting everybody on board. So if I've got 5 people in my company that like skiing and I like skiing and I'm a leader in the company, well, one of the things that I will do is organize a ski trip, and the company will fund a portion of that and the employees will pay for a portion. But the bottom line is at the end of the day, you give individuals within your organization a chance to come together based on a shared interest outside of the obvious identification of all working together within your organization. And a lot of times, that's how you build real relationships. It's more than just, me and my colleague, Ryan, or Bill, or anybody else that works here at Zweig, just kind of coming in and seeing each other every day. But it's also us going out, maybe traveling together, maybe going to an event together, and spending time together. And so certainly want to encourage you to really think long and hard about ways that you can create opportunities to build that camaraderie. And again, that's also, once you do that and you set it up internally for your organization, it is something else that's sellable and attractive to potential people that you're bringing on board, because you can bring them through and show them that this is what we're doing, and we're taking a group to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and we're taking a group out to California to go surfing. We're taking a group to Baja, Mexico. You name it. All of these efforts make a difference. People are going to go on vacation anyway. You might as well create an opportunity for them to do that with folks on their team at work. And it's just a great building block for helping to grow strong, solid team units within your organization. The kind of units where, honestly, after a while, people will think long and hard about leaving that if they are recruited by somebody else. We recruit people all the time that aren't actively looking for a new opportunity, but we will take time to put something in front of them that will compel them to want to at least hear about it. And a lot of times we'll hear that, hey, I had a chance to look at that firm you told me about, but I really like where I am. I like the culture of my company. I like all the things that we're doing. And I always ask them, well, what are the things that are keeping you there at your company? And there are a lot of the little things that I just described here in this particular talk today. So I really want to encourage you to think long and hard about ways that you can revamp some of the things that you do internally at your organization, both for the people that you have right now on staff, right? So that's a retention issue. How do you keep the people that you have happy? But then from a recruitment perspective, how do you entice or get those excited that don't work with you to come work with you, not just because of all the great work that you're doing and all the cool projects that you're working on, but because of the overall cool company culture that you have, and because of some of those programs that I talked about feeding into that culture. That's really what you want to do, and that's how you want to figure out a way to get things moving in the proper direction within your organization. And sometimes it takes a little trial and error. Sometimes it takes leadership coming together and, getting out a bunch of Post-it notes and brainstorming some events that you can do to kind of drum up more interest within the organization and to build more natural relationships. So, I'm not suggesting that what I'm talking about here on this webinar is going to happen overnight, but you've got to be intentional about setting this up. And if and we know firms that are like that are just not intentional, they just wait until things happen, things will ultimately happen to you, and it will be in a negative way. You really want to go out and force the issue and make things happen, because in making things happen, new opportunities will present themselves that you would have never dreamed of before. So intentionality is certainly key in figuring out ways to make your organization a great place to work. Just remember that, intentionality. So when you talk about a great place to work and what that means, and nowadays when we talk about this whole idea of the gig economy and what's coming down the pike and what is an engineering or architectural firm going to look like in the next 5 or 10 years, I think it's going to look drastically different than what you see today, even though the services that you offer are going to be somewhat similar. We talk a lot at Zweig about growing entrepreneurs, right? These are the people who could be in business for themselves, but they work for your organization. And why? Why do they work for your organization? It's because you create opportunities for them to grow within their business. And so I think it's really important for you to kind of think long and hard about whether or not you are fertile ground for growing these entrepreneurs, these people that, for all intents and purposes, could be out on their own. They're smart enough to do it. Maybe they've got some capital saved that they could go out and hang their own shingle and compete with you. But you want to create opportunities internally for these individuals to grow within your organization, as opposed to leaving you and becoming your competitor. Self-esteem. When growing entrepreneurs, self-esteem is not eroded by being part of the organization, but instead is enhanced by being part of it. And I think it's important that you continue to grow those individuals in your organization that have desires to become bigger than where they are currently. And those, as we call them, entrepreneurs, need fertile ground to do that. Growing entrepreneurs, it gives you the ability to think creatively. It allows those individuals to come up with new ideas, to study feasibility options, and to sell to management. If you are growing entrepreneurs, you're basically telling them that, look, every opportunity is available to you to do your job, as well as anything else that you think is a possibility for us to be doing as an organization. Maybe it's a line of business that we haven't even gotten into, but you have an experience in, and it's something that you want to try to lead the charge on. You want to be open to that. And I'm not saying that you're going to go down every path that every employee presents to you, but you need to be open to hearing what these employees have to say, especially those that are really driven and that have those internal compasses that are constantly sending them true north to go look constantly for new opportunities. And then again, when growing entrepreneurs are rewarded in firms. You have to recognize them for who they are. You have to recognize them for the fact that these individuals could go out and start their own organization or company, and that you need to reward them for their diligence and for their effort. And then, the other thing I want to mention is from our survey is that almost 2/3, 65% of firms offer some type of referral bonus. So, you certainly want to encourage your people to go out. And we talked about relationships and how if I'm a project manager at a firm and I go out and develop business, while I'm out there developing business, I also want to be out there looking for new talent to join the firm. And so, it would be nice if your firm thought about offering some type of referral bonus. And, at the bottom there, if you notice in the asterisk, it says, Mark Zweig is not a fan of these. Personally, I could go either way with them. I know a lot of firms that use them. I recently had a client tell me that, they had to pay $18,000 to one employee for finding, I think they got $3,000 per employee for a referral bonus, and they had referred 6 employees in 1 year. And so my client told me that he had to sit the guy down and say, look, I really appreciate your ability to bring in all these great people, and certainly we'd like for you to continue to do it. But I don't want that to be the only focus, because you're also a great engineer. And so we kind of laughed about it, but the reality is that if you are going to set it up, you need to set up a solid program that's very clear about how a bonus is paid and what that bonus will be. We've heard as small as $500 per placement, which is actually kind of small. The norm that we hear is anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 per individual, and a lot of it is related to the type of a person that they're bringing on board. Maybe it's a very difficult individual from maybe a clean room mechanical engineer or some discipline that's really hard to find in the first place, and so it might be a sliding scale in terms of what that referral bonus is going to be, but that's just something to think about. Now, the reason why Mark Zweig is not a fan of these is simply put that if I'm working here at Zweig and we did if I had somebody that I thought would be appropriate here, and I was only going to present them to the company if I knew I was going to get a bonus out of it, or if I thought that the company was going to be able to give me something out of it, and then it doesn't work out, or maybe the person that I present to the company gets rejected, then in a way I'm being rejected, right? And so Mark is not a fan of these for that reason. He's not a fan of these because what if you do hire somebody that Bob referred and then they leave after 6 months? Well, that kind of makes Bob look bad. It makes the client a little disappointed because they've given Bob this money, and usually there's not a clawback feature on these referral bonuses, but there are a number of reasons why. The referral bonus can be a plus, but it can also be a minus depending on how you look at it. We're not saying that you have to go either way, but we are saying we did a survey recently, and 2/3 of the firms surveyed offer referral bonuses. So take that with a grain of salt and govern yourselves accordingly as it pertains to referral bonuses. Another statistic that we found that we thought was really interesting was that 3/4 of firms, 75%, offer tuition and fee reimbursement. So if I come to work with you as a civil engineer and I want to go back and get my master's in civil engineering, 75% of the firms that we surveyed are taking care of tuition and fee reimbursement. Most of the times it's based on whether or not the individual has gotten a C or better, or sometimes a B or better. It depends on the organization. So, you can set yourselves up for that, and that's certainly something that we would recommend. Piggybacking on that, the whole tuition and fee reimbursement, Another way that we're talking about, and I wrote an article recently about retention issues specifically in terms of making your firm a great place to work, is the idea of setting up a special benefit for your employees, both current as well as those that you try to bring on board, to offer to pay a portion of their student loans. Average student loan debt right now in the United States is $35,000. And we are working actually with some firms right now that are implementing programs as a form of retention to use the paying off of student loans as a retention tool and as a recruiting tool. Because if I tell somebody, look, while I'm recruiting the individual, and I say, look, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you currently still have in outstanding student loan debt? We hear all kinds of numbers. Some are in the six figures, others are lower. But if I ask you that and you tell me, well, I still owe about $15,000, and I say to you, well, great, my client, the people that I'm talking to you about that are really interested in hiring you, not only will they hire you, not only will they give you a sign-on bonus or maybe, give you the type of salary that you really want, or maybe one that's much higher than what you're currently getting right now, but they have also agreed to pay either off a portion or all of your student loans over the course of the next fill in the blank number of years, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 8 years, 8 to 10 years. It just depends. Do you think that would be enticing to a candidate? Absolutely. One of the big accounting firms, Price Waterhouse, is already utilizing this successfully across the board, whether they're doing it with kids coming right out of college that are joining PwC, or whether they're doing it with accountants that are coming from some of the other big accounting firms to come work with them. It is a tremendous recruitment and retention tool to be able to offer individuals that type of benefit. So just something to think about. Again, I wrote an article about it. I'll put a link to that article in the sheet that I'm going to share with you in a few minutes, and you'll be able to see that information. But it's really good. It's really timely, and it certainly is a way to build retention with most people that you encounter, because just about everybody that I run across has some form of student loan debt. There are people my age in their mid-40s that still have student loan debt. So you'd be surprised. There's still a lot of it out there, and it may be a way for you to attract and retain a really good employee. So just something to think about. Another aspect of a great place to work, and this is not something that we talk about all the time. I know Mark Zweig likes to talk about it, but you hear the expression D&I, which stands for diversity and inclusion, and most major companies, all Fortune 500 companies have D&I departments or diversity and inclusion departments, which either are a section or a segment of HR, or it's its own separate entity within the organization. Our idea here is that, diversity and inclusion is key to helping to avoid monothink, right? If everybody that works with you guys are all from the same place, sometimes that does stifle growth. And sometimes you need to add some diversity to your organization in order to maybe see some real growth happen, or just see some new ideas be implemented. And I'm not suggesting that you guys go out and wholesale change everything overnight, but just take a long, hard look at it. And what would that look like? And we're seeing more and more firms in the design industry that are becoming browner, more yellow. It just depends. The bottom line is, and I know for some this is a delicate topic, and I'm not trying to be tongue in cheek with it, but it's just the idea that it's just engineering and engineering firms and architectural firms, are not exclusive clubs. You're getting a lot of talent out there from all walks of life, from all creeds and colors, that have tremendous talent. And we've actually seen some clients that are just, they look like the United Nations, and at the end of the day, their revenue is like the gross domestic product of some small countries. They're doing so well. And I'm not saying that is exclusively because of diversity and inclusion, but I'm certainly saying I believe that attribute that absolutely attributes to their success. So it's something to think about. And it's not something we as an organization get into a whole lot of deep discussion on, but it is certainly an observation that we make, especially when we do strategic planning. When we come in and help firms with their business plan, or we come in and look at the makeup of an organization, we certainly will make recommendations, and we don't beat around the bush as far as that's concerned, but we certainly give you helpful advice with regard to that. Now, this would normally be the time when we would do some Q&A, and certainly you guys that are watching this at the time that this is posted, whether on YouTube or through GoToMeeting, you can ask yourself some internal questions, or you can go online and post some questions using the hashtag BVRWebinar. You can also use the hashtag Zweig Group. And we'll be more than happy to share and answer any questions that you have. And as always, you'll be able to reach out to me and find out more about this whole process and whatever questions that we can answer. Finally, here's the tip sheet that we have. It's http://bit.ly/ZGBBR tips. That's the tip sheet that we created, and that sheet will give you access to all of the things that I talked about in this particular conversation, and information on how to reach out to myself and others on the team, how to reach out to my organization, and just it'll give you a way to ask any question that you want to ask. I'm also asking everybody that is watching this, whether you're watching it and you're actively participating in this whole Becoming a Better Recruiter webinar series, or you're an employee of an employer within the design industry and you happen upon this video on YouTube, or you hear about the podcast and you're listening to the podcast, we would love for you to fill out this very, very short employer survey. We are doing some due diligence and survey of employers in the design industry, and we will share with you all of our findings once the survey is completed. And you can find that information at http://bit.ly/AEC employer. If you could fill out that employer survey, we'd really, really appreciate it. And we will run this over the next 3 episodes of Becoming a Better Recruiter so that you can take part in that. Next, we're going to do session number 4. It won't be to the end of this month. We've got an event coming up in Phoenix on the 22nd and 23rd of September. That is our hot firm and best firm to work for event. And we'd certainly encourage you. There's still some space to join us in Phoenix at the Biltmore Hotel. I think the hotel's sold out, but we do have other options. And if you're interested in being a part and rubbing shoulders with some of your peers in the industry that are really, really successful, we'd love for you to be a part of that. If you're listening to this on podcast after the 23rd, or you're watching this on video after the 23rd of September, never fear. Just connect with us, and we'll let you know all about the Hot Firm event next year. And I don't know where it's going to be held yet, but it will be. We'll have a lot in store for you if you want to become part of that dialogue in terms of what the best firms are doing in our industry. But session 4 is going to be fun, knowing your numbers, your KPIs, your key performance indicators. I cannot wait to talk about that. We're really going to spend some time getting into the numbers. So for all of you data wonks, all you analytical people, you're going to enjoy session number 4 of Becoming a Better Recruiter. And that will be rolled out on the 29th of September. And we probably are not going to do a live webinar. We will just go right to record it and put it up so that it is available to you. If you have questions about knowing and understanding your numbers when it comes to recruitment and retention in your organization, please reach out to me before this event comes up and before we record session number 4, and we'll try to include some of your questions in there. Again, here's the upcoming webinar schedule, and as you can see, Know Your Numbers is September 29th, and then October 13th is Successful Interviews and Even Better Offers. And then finally on November 3rd, we're going to do social media and mobile recruiting. And for those of you that have never thought about why social media is important when it comes to recruiting. We're certainly going to try to open your eyes during that particular webinar. So really excited. I can't believe we're basically halfway through this webinar series already. To me, it's probably one of the best opportunities for you to get some basic information to help you plan as you plan to grow your organization, both on a recruiting side as well as on a retention side. So, that is something that's really important. So, we certainly want to get you now. Lastly, I want to thank you for participating on this webinar. Again, if you want to continue the discussion about recruitment and retention online, use the hashtags BBR webinar and hashtag Zweig Group, and that is ZWEIG Group. We will respond to anything posted on social media on this topic. You can check us out on Facebook. You can check us out on Twitter. Again, I'm Randy Wilburn. You can reach me anytime at 617-828-9093. Be sure when you call to mention that, hey, I saw you on the BBR webinar series, and I'd love to chat with you. I need some help with whatever. Just call me anytime. My email is rwilburn@zweiggroup.com, and I'm also at Randy Wilburn on Twitter. Would love to chat with you. Check me out. I'm also at Randy Wilburn on Snapchat and at Randy Wilburn on Instagram. So I share a lot of information about recruitment and retention across all of those social media portals. So would love to talk with you. Would love to meet up with you. Certainly hope you've enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you again for session number 4, Knowing Your Numbers and Understanding Recruiting KPIs or Key Performance Indicators. I'll see you then. Take care.